This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you an interview of India's High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Vikram Doraiswami. Interviewer is Rajesh Kumar Jha, Prasar Bharati Special Correspondent, Dhaka.
Bangladesh occupies a key position in India's Act East and Neighbourhood First policy. The relationship between India and Bangladesh have been historic and strong ever since 1971, when India extended a great support to the liberation war of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is celebrating the birth centenary of its founding father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the golden jubilee of its liberation from Pakistan, and 50 years of the establishment of diplomatic ties with India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to visit Bangladesh to take part in the celebrations. Sir, India-Bangladesh relations have been exemplary, a model of relationship for the neighbors. How do you look at the current phase of relationship between the two countries?
As you correctly said, the relationship has always been of extremely high priority for India. It is in fact one of our most prized and most important relationships. So from that standpoint, it is a particular pleasure to be able to say that India-Bangladesh ties are at their highest ever level since the 1970s. We can see this in the way in which there is complete political consensus in India of the importance of Bangladesh, the importance of a strong relationship with Bangladesh, and the importance of developing this relationship further. Our government, since 2014, has put in a lot of effort in this relationship. And indeed, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, for her part, and her government, has, since she came to power for the second and the current ongoing period, has consistently prioritized the steady improvement of bilateral relations. It is not recognized enough how much the relationship has changed. It is today a relationship in which there is great comfort in being able to recognize each other's importance and special position in our respective foreign policies. It is also a fact that we have resolved issues that have plagued us for decades, and in few other countries can you find equivalent examples. For instance, resolution of our land boundary. The actual effort to find and transfer pieces of land and to resolve issues of enclaves is unique. Very few countries have ever done this anywhere in the world. So this kind of thing is something that has given the relationship new strength. I would also want to include here the fact that India and Bangladesh are among the very few countries in the world, certainly in Asia, that have actually peacefully resolved even a maritime boundary dispute through a tribunal process, with both countries accepting the fact that the judgment would be binding on both countries. We have done things that are unique and I think not always fully recognized in our own countries, leave alone the world. So to answer your question in one phrase, when our leadership talks about this being a golden age of India-Bangladesh relationship, a Shonali Adhyaya, as they say in Bangla, I think that's absolutely correct.
So Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be visiting Bangladesh to take part in these three historic celebrations that are going to take place. So how do you look at the importance of the visit of the Prime Minister to Bangladesh on this occasion?
Well, that's, I think, a very specific and a very important question. Look, we need to remember that the COVID pandemic is still going on. In most parts of the world, high-level interactions have more or less dried up. Everybody carries out high-level business and indeed most kinds of business virtually these days. And yet, this will be the first visit of our Prime Minister outside India since the pandemic broke out. It shows the priority that our government attaches to the relationship with Bangladesh and these very important celebratory occasions. It also shows the fact that Bangladesh has reached out at the level of the Prime Minister to invite our Prime Minister to be the chief guest at this very, very important national day. 26th of March is Bangladesh's National Day, and our Prime Minister will be the sole chief guest, is a clear sign of the mutual regard that the two leaders hold each other in. So I think it is a highly significant moment that shows to the world and to our own people the priority we attach to each other. So yes, I would say that this is a very unique, very special moment.
India-Bangladesh ties are multidimensional. They stretch from trade to commerce to connectivity to so many other aspects of the relationship between the two countries. But what are the specific areas which you think are important at this point of time so far as the Bangladesh-India relations are concerned?
We need to recognize that we are each other's biggest land neighbors. In any relationship that is so intense, so connected historically, culturally, even today as economies, and it's only getting more connected, the world is moving to far higher levels of integration for benefit. Even the COVID pandemic showed us that there is value in nearshoring production chains and inshoring production chains. So I'd say the relationship should really focus on identifying our strengths, working together to build on these strengths, and recognizing how best we can leverage the unique opportunities we offer each other. Let me explain that a bit. Bangladesh is today, if you look at its location, it is so well positioned to be the fulcrum of the trade and connectivity opportunities, not just for India and its northeast, but also for Nepal, for Bhutan, and even indeed for the Bay of Bengal area. So if we consider Bangladesh's USP, its unique selling proposition, to be as a strategic hub, to be a high quality producer of goods and an integrator of transportation systems, then I think the relationship could grow very rapidly in the direction of creating a sort of an irreversible economic partnership between us.
Recently, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar was here in Bangladesh in connection with the preparation for the Prime Minister's visit and to discuss the bilateral issues. During his interaction with the media, he said that for the next 2 decades, the area that he sees to be the main thrust of India-Bangladesh relations are connectivity and people-to-people ties. Now, connectivity issues between India and Bangladesh have been growing. There have been so many new things. And people-people ties also quite closely linked to the connectivity issue. So how do you look at this issue, sir? The new challenges to connectivity, the new opportunities that exist between India and Bangladesh, the Maitri Setu that has been inaugurated, and so many other things. Could you please tell us about the new initiatives on connectivity and people-to-people ties that is also linked to it?
Thank you. That connects up quite neatly with what I just said. So let me expand a bit on that idea. Now, if you see, till 1965, much of the connectivity between parts of Bengal on our own side also went through Bangladesh. As many as 6 railway crossings operated to move goods and people across what was originally one integrated region. After 1965, all of this connectivity was lost. What we have done with the strong vision of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and the determined direction of our government under Prime Minister Modi has been to rebuild much of this connectivity. So out of the 6 cross-border crossings that existed on the railway side till the 1960s, we have restored 5. The 5th was just restored in December last year, connecting in the North Bengal area between Chilahati and Haldibari. The 6th one in the Assam area between Shahbazpur and Kulaura is still work in progress. We hope by sometime next year it should be done. And we're building new rail connectivity, which will also connect up between Agartala and Akhoda, which will then give us seamless connectivity between the Chattogram-Dhaka line and also India into the northeast. So that's just railways. There are projects in place to connect up and improve the quality of roads that run from Benapole all the way to Bhanga, which is on one side of the Padda River, where the Mava Expressway is coming up. There are projects to upgrade roads in the northeast connective area. You mentioned Maitri Setu. The road that will connect it beyond from Ramgarh on the Bangladesh side towards Chattogram needs upgradation. We've offered a line of credit for that. The Japanese are also offering support for the bridges on that road. So the idea is to build the hard infrastructure of connectivity in terms of roads and railways, and through that to facilitate the movement of goods and services, but also people. We have 2 non-stop trains running from Khulna to Kolkata and Dhaka to Kolkata, where we provide end-to-end clearances. So customs and immigration are done at the ends, not in the borders. If you can do that for people, why not for goods? In particular, this is needed because we have motor vehicles agreements between India and Nepal and India and Bhutan, but not between India and Bangladesh. So this 4-nation MVA will increase that possible connectivity. Bangladesh has also indicated its interest in joining the India-Myanmar-Thailand trilateral highway, which would also involve the opportunity for connectivity through our northeast. We also are working on inland waterways. Historically, if you see, during the medieval period and thereafter during even the British colonial period, the rivers served as the main channels of transportation of goods from the northeast and from the mountains. Now, that has actually died out. And making rivers usable again by cross-border routes has been one of the big focuses of our government. And Bangladesh side has also been extremely cooperative on this. So the net result has been that we are now, through joint dredging exercises, some of which we're doing on grant basis, through projects to build connective infrastructure like container terminal at Ashuganj River Port, we are close to a point where we can look at rivers being used for commercial purposes. Human creativity and business will lead the rest, provided we create the opportunities for them. Which brings me to a second part that is equally necessary, along with the upgradation of ports, roads, rail, river infrastructure, and even airports. What we really need to look at is the regulatory systems that connect all of this. The World Bank did a study recently, which was published last week, and I participated in the release of that study, which pointed out that the India-Bangladesh border is a thick border, which essentially means that regulatory processes on both sides are so stringent that it is very difficult for goods and services to move across. Difficulty, in other words, means more time. More time means more money lost. More money lost means that the cost of trade or the cost that is attached to the movement of goods is passed on to consumers. So it means higher cost of goods and services for the consumers in Bangladesh or in India, as the case may be. Now, this makes no sense. We really need to have a more business-friendly approach to it. We need to multiply the number of ports through which goods can move through. We need to increase the integration between customs systems. We need to look at ways in which we create multimodal nodes and hubs of goods transshipment. So I think what the minister was trying to say was that if we get the connectivity picture right, and it is already beginning to come into place on both sides, immediately be able to see direct economic benefits from this.
Yes, indeed, sir. Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla recently spoke about energy cooperation, the connectivity of energy in the sub-region of India, Bangladesh, Myanmar and all. A very important part of the cooperation in this region, and India is working on this. But one of the most important and significant things that had happened recently is the COVID cooperation, the cooperation between India and Bangladesh on the issue of COVID. At a time of such a huge humanitarian crisis at the global level, when the challenges for India were no less grave, India was able to supply a very generous amount of vaccine to Bangladesh. Subsequent to the last year's video conferencing called by the Prime Minister of India with SAARC leaders, there has been so many important activities that have taken place between India and Bangladesh. Do you think it can serve as a template for future in terms of such natural crisis or humanitarian crisis between countries of this region and specifically between India and Bangladesh?
Yes, I think you're right. If you look at it, I think at the outbreak of the COVID crisis last March, just about a year ago, it became fairly clear that this was not going to be one of those challenges that each country could just close down the doors and survive on its own. We were going to also need to find ways of cooperating with each other, specifically in a subcontinent like ours, which is so closely connected. Our borders are, as I said, so extensive. People-to-people ties are so strong. So it made sense for us to work together to combat a pandemic like the world had never seen before through unprecedented new levels of cooperation. The Prime Minister's initiative to put together a SAARC leaders conference, which took place in March last year, and in that to come up with the idea of SAARC fund for COVID, which each nation would operate on its own but set aside money for those resources. Through the year also we managed, even with our own challenges, to ensure that some amount of support could be provided to our neighbors in terms of testing kits, masks, PPE kits, even medicine, the supply of HCQ, when it was seen as one of the ways in which COVID could be at least managed. All these were signs of our consistent effort to maintain partnerships between us in our neighborhood during the COVID phase. As we moved towards the delivery of finished vaccines, we also started work to prepare the ground in India, but also with our partners through online experience sharing platforms where we talked about how we were approaching the challenge of inoculating hundreds of millions of people, how we were coping with the challenge of ensuring cold chains for the movement of drugs, access to quality syringes and needles, the totality of the challenge. When you think about it, these are huge administrative challenges. And recognizing that these are similar challenges that our neighbors were going to face, we worked together with all of them to share knowledge, to see what they had in mind, and to see if we could replicate each other's best practices. So this practice has also happened over the last several months. As the vaccines then were rolled out, Bangladesh was one of the first countries to receive not only their own contracted purchase of vaccines, but even before that, a tranche of 2 million doses of vaccines. Today, if you see, from the purchases that were made plus the gift pack of dosages from India, Bangladesh is today the largest recipient of India-made vaccines in the world. We've supplied something like 54 million vaccines. Well, as of earlier this month, it was 54 million. Maybe it's about 60 million now. And Bangladesh alone has about 9 million plus. So it is a sign of the importance that we attach to a country that is, after all, the 8th largest population in the world. And a recognition of the fact that, as we've quoted on all the dosages of vaccines that are going out on the containers, may all be free from disease, which is our own civilizational approach to health. So the idea is that no one country can sort of isolate itself and make itself well from this disease. We're all going to have to cooperate. So I see this health cooperation as a means of going forward, and I'm confident that we will be able to build on this to take forward health cooperation between India and Bangladesh, but also within the rest of the region.
Thank you so much, sir, for talking to All India Radio.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be on your show.
You are listening to an interview of India's High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Vikram Doraiswami. The interviewer was Rajesh Kumar Jha, Prasar Bharati Special Correspondent, Dhaka. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.